Guess what time it is? Where's my button?
It's in my headphones like that though. It's like
I know. It's the best introduction on the internet, period. Even
instrumental.
There it is.
Instrumental 3D style.
It is. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Beyond 2D. I'm one of your hosts, Jessica Dugas, and this is my fabulous co-host.
I'm the other human being, Farron, Dozier, retired.
There it is. We put 2Ds on the screen for you.
That's right.
This evening. We're continuing our series that we've been doing where we've lost our minds, basically. And I'm thrilled that we've done that. But this is our We're Talking About It series, our Beyond 2D series, where we have been talking about peeling off the labels, our human need for belonging. And we've been talking about all of the things that everybody says we shouldn't talk about. We started off with labels and belonging. We went right heavy into race and then race and culture. And with the fabulous Sang D, we went 3D that night, right? Mm-hmm. And then last episode, my dad was here. He was here, and we talked about war and peace on Veterans Day last time. And thank you so much. We've gotten such an amazing response to some of the clips from that episode on the YouTube. Cool. So thank you guys so much for that. I think people definitely enjoy hearing about, those military experiences, and I loved the clip that I pulled from that episode for our commercial for tonight of my dad talking in the beginning, because I think it really says something when you have people, and you can speak to this as well, who have put their lives on the line for a country that can't come together. And so tonight, in the spirit of this topic, we're talking about politics tonight. We're talking about the red, the blue, the everything in between, real talk on politics and the labels that divide us. America. That's what we're talking about.
Tell the truth.
It's going to be good. And so I'm going to give you guys a full disclaimer out front here. Okay. Don't act up in the comments tonight. Okay. Don't act. I will come through the screen. But the other thing is, so I wanted to have actual politicians on the show tonight.
That's what we hope.
That was my goal. I asked several politicians if they would come be on the show with us tonight, and every single one of them either did not answer me or said no. No. And I'll just kick it off by saying that, that speaks to me. That says something to me. We've talked about that before, how even a non-response is a response. Yep. A no is also a response. And so, it's left it up to me to decipher what those mean.
It's okay. Reloaded.
And so it occurred to me earlier. I said to myself, who have you had amazing political conversations with? And I thought about a friend of mine who has been on Project Joy. He's been on the Breakthrough Show. I've been on his show where we talked about Pete's Dragon, and I won. He's going to tell you that he won, but I won is what it is. And we were also on Java Delight together, which we were talking about before the show with Brandon Croucher. That's where we all met, was way back then. And so I love that. So everybody, we're going to take a super quick break. And we're going to play our little, we're going to get mushy for a minute, play our little gratitude reel from our hosts, some of our hosts on the network. And when we come back, our surprise special guest is going to be on. Stop acting up already. We're going to be right back after this.
Hi, I'm Margin Dugas. I co-host on Project Joy, and I would say what I'm most thankful for is my friends and family and being on the show.
This year, I am thankful for the lessons that have shaped me, the people who remind me of love, and the creative energy that flows through my everyday life.
I am Olivia Bunny, and this year I'm most thankful for the gift of life and music. This year, music has gotten me through so much, and it's just really shown me how important it is to be present. So that's what I'm thankful for this year.
I'm so grateful for all the people I've met through our show, my co-hosts who I find as my dear family, and the Breakthrough Show Network hosts and co-hosts, and Jessica Dugas, who makes it all possible.
My name is Leah. I'm a co-host on Project Joy, and I'm grateful for my family and joy this year.
And this year, I am most grateful for other human beings who allow me to be fully me.
For the amazing people that I'm surrounded with. I'm so thankful for the accountability, the people that show up even when it's challenging or not convenient, and the love that we share together. We are thankful for all of you this holiday season, and I'm super thankful that the king of 5D leadership is here tonight, Mr. Brett Gordon, everybody. Where's my button? Oh, okay, here we go. There it is. I'm gonna put you right in the middle. There we go. It's good to have you here tonight, Brett.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to join. It sounds like we're going to have a heck of a good time.
We're going to have so much fun.
Be ready.
We're going to have fun. All right. I want to say hi to everybody really quickly. Ollie was there front over. It's the middle of the night over in Belgium, in case you didn't know. And he was excited to see who our third D is going to be here. But we're going 5D tonight because Brett is the 5D leader. So there's that.
Boom. Right there.
Miss Brittany is here. It's going to be a good show. Good to see you guys. Everybody's Angry Otter Reacts. I'm excited to have an otter here, and I appreciate you to come in and give us that button, and we appreciate you very much. Thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving Eve to the incredible Jamie Rich, which this is the first time I'm saying this out loud on the air.
Uh-oh.
Jamie Rich is going to be hosting a brand new show here on the Breakthrough Show Network. Beginning January 2026, called Older, Wiser, Stronger. We're very excited.
Oh, I like that title.
Yes, it's gonna be good. That's the first time I'm saying it out loud, so I'm very it's gonna be good. So I'm just gonna leave and let you guys take the conversation.
Oh, what?
Okay.
All right. So I have a question for you, Brett. You know, as we were putting this show together, you know, and she reaches out to you to be a part of this episode. What was your first thing that came to mind?
The division that we have within our country, and I don't think it's just our country that has the division, that politics and media tend to exacerbate.
Yeah.
So I think it's a topic that seems to be taboo to a lot of people. Yeah. You know, it's like, don't talk about politics, don't talk about these things, but it's absolutely something that needs to be brought out. You know, you and I were both in the service, and there's this rivalry between our services, right? The Navy, the Army, the Air Force, the Marines. We all joke around. We may even get into tussles at times, but we all have a common mission. And most of us understand that. I won't say everybody, but most of us do. And there's all the different colors of our services are our emblems. And then we have what we created as a purple command. I don't know if you remember this back in the day. It might have been before you even got in the service. But US Transcom was considered to be the purple service. Okay. One that blended all of us together into a single command. That was one of the first combined commands. And it breaks down the lines of the different services because we all have to move things from one place to another. And that's where I think we need to start to come back to in terms of politics and life in general, and stop focusing on those small areas, probably 5% or less, that we actually don't agree on.
Right.
But are 90% of the crap that you hear on TV.
I'm gonna, and thank you for saying that, because this is why we're here today, right? You actually address the pieces of the layers that we want to peel off, right? And I can relate to you in my advocacy work with sickle cell. There's a huge conversation that they feel like they're drug seekers. But if you tell the truth, maybe less than 2% are actually drug seekers. So that if you say 2%, 98% aren't drug seekers. But why does the 2% make the largest noise about the feeling of the drugs? And there, it's like, how does that squeaky wheel get the whatever that oil? But in some of these conversations, especially up against human beings, though, that context doesn't work.
I just had this conversation with my kids earlier because we were talking about something regarding homeschooling, and my son was saying something that he didn't agree with. And I said, well, you got to understand that what you're talking about is such a tiny percent. And so we were having this conversation, and we were talking about how under every label that we put on a different group of people, there's always going to be the bad apples. There's always going to be the ones that are causing a little bit of an issue that maybe, that seem to be the ones that get front page news, right? And so in every community, under every label, we have those things, but that's where the attention is given. So we think that it's the entirety of the label.
Yeah. And that's why I'm grateful with Jessica to be on this network, but on this topic today, because for me, those labels, we have to be able to remove those, or at least be willing to remove or listen to the label, right? Maybe we got to listen to the label and then let people hear what that label means to them as we peel it off, right? Because we all have opinions about everything, which is not right or wrong, good or bad, but I just understand for myself, the moment I put my opinion up against another human being, it disconnects me from them as a person. And that's why we talked about being human. We're people first, and then we deal with what we deal with in those environments or those conversations. But to label you as whatever, as an other, and then talk to you like that, it disconnects us from each other. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this conversation, for that, right. For people to hear that for themselves.
Right. I think a lot of the narrative right now, it's what I hear from a lot of people is, well, we can't have a conversation about this. We can't be friends because we can't sit at the same table because they voted for whoever. And so then when you say, well, it's not about who you voted for, and they say that who they voted for matters because it says what their principles are, what their values are. Who they voted for says who they are as a person. And so what do you guys feel about that? Because I know how I feel about it, but I'm gonna let you guys take it first.
Well, I've never said I was a Republican or a Democrat. I never vote straight line ticket. I don't believe in everything any party says that they're supporting. I blend it together. And this world is not black or white. It's not red or blue. This world is shades of gray or shades of purple, if you want to look at it. And that's where we live. That's where we need to live, and that's where we come together. When you believe that the world is black or white, you're gonna have confrontation.
Yes.
And that's not the world in which we live. And we also have to remember that, the world in which we live today is even more challenging because of technology. And in my leadership, I talk about people, process, and technology in that order. What we're going to today is technology, maybe process, and people comes in last. But we are human beings. We are the human race, not any particular race. And those are the things that we need to focus on. But there's division that is happening in social media and mainstream media, that because what bleeds leads. That's what makes money, for whether you're social media trying to get likes or your mainstream media trying to make advertising dollars. Those are the challenges that we have today. And we also have to remember, and especially even more so now with AI and bots, is that a lot of what we're hearing and being inundated with through the technology, which is our eyes to the world now, is also being manipulated by entities throughout the world, as well as within our country and within our communities. And those are the things that we need to educate people on, because what you get in a Google search, what you get in a Chat GPT return is based on algorithms. It's based on what you've asked it. It's based on what is out there in large part along the words that you may be asking the question. And that doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just pretty much responding in a way that's going to keep your eyes on that media.
Yeah. Beautifully said. I wish we could have that talk about AI and the algorithm, because people really don't understand that that is a key factor in technology today. It's designed to do that, to have it show up that way and to feed that. And I'm learning for myself on the spiritual context is strife, right? Because the strife is the disconnection. So we're already disconnected from human beings, from each other. And then the feeding of that information just pushes us apart even more, because it's not, social media is not social. It's not as a human experience social. It's not. And so what is that? And that stuff is designing to put the conversation at the forefront of the negativity, as we were talking about pointing to. For me, I don't like politics at all. I'm just never have been, never cared, just never been involved. I didn't join the military for God and country. I joined it, from a recommendation of my uncle who was in the Air Force Reserves, right, for a job. So the military for me was a job. It was an opportunity to travel, and I got what I got out of it. As you said, in the branches of service, we all have different views, but we still realize that I would still die for you at the end of the day. We could fight and argue and have our disagreements, but when it came down to that camouflage, I'm fighting and I'm willing to die for you. And our society doesn't have that today. And I'm not saying that you have to die like your life, but can you die to your emotional state? Can you die to your opinion and allow other people to say how they got to find out where they got? Like, but we want to be right. And so all these different views and perspectives, as you said, for internet and social media. But my conversation tonight is from the heart of us as man. I'm going to bring my answers from that perspective, because I want people to self-examine themselves and figure out, who influenced you to think about why you are where you are today? And it was before internet. It was before the internet. It was before the news. It was maybe someone in your family, your environment.
Ollie said a quote in the chat, which is so funny, because I wrote this down before this. This is a quote that I hear a lot of times from people that says, "My freedom stops when yours starts." There's a quote, "My liberty ends where yours begins," and this phrase means that individual freedoms are not absolute and are limited by the rights and freedoms of other people. And I think a lot of people use this quote when they start talking about politics and stuff as well. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about the quote in general. I haven't really sat with it long enough to create an opinion. Do you have thoughts on that quote, Brett?
I think that there's a fallacy in belief in that quote. I think that, our freedoms, first and foremost, are in our mind. And the only thing that we truly have control of, and most people don't recognize it, is our mind. We don't control others. We can influence, but we don't control. And we have to realize that we are being influenced and not necessarily controlled. But when you bring that in as a barrier, as a fence, as a boundary, then oftentimes it becomes a control, and we lock ourselves into it ourselves.
Wow. That quote right there for me, I filter.
Check this out as you're pondering it.
No, so the initial quote for me is from a spiritual context, the heart of us now, right? So at my heart of it, when I loved Farron, and I did the work around Farron's mind, now I can love other people. So my freedom came from me loving myself, which now allows people to be themselves, right? So yeah, your freedom comes when I find, however it's phrased, but that's what I interpret, that when I found my peace in my life, it allowed people to have their peace in their life, because now all the stuff that I went through for the first 40 years, I can only imagine what other people went through in their minds, making up stories about their parents, about their childhood, and it should have been like this, it shouldn't have been like this. And then we get drawn to these political parties or these gangs or these sports teams because we want to belong somewhere. So again, is the political conversation more based off, I know it ain't right, but it's at least I belong somewhere. Right. And so my freedom is, when I got my freedom, I could give that away to somebody else. So yours starts from my freedom.
I like that perspective of it. Because for me, it's a little like Ollie was saying, he used the example of having enough food on his plate and there's people not having any food at all. So it doesn't really add up to me. Like, that doesn't mean to me that you are not free. That means that we have work to do. It means, like, that's what it means to, I don't know. So I struggle with that quote a little bit, because I feel like there's some underlying things there that maybe are a little off for me, but that's me.
There's a quote that says, that I learned, that I actually live from it, is that independence is not freedom. A lot of times we think that because I'm independent, I'm free, but it's not freedom. We're still governed by these political, these laws. Right. You're still governed by something. So the independence is not freedom.
And there's a difference. It's two different conversations, I think, to have a conversation about the freedom, our freedom within our minds, within what we believe, and then freedom as far as like, good luck going to run that red light because your butt's going to get pulled over. You know what I mean? Like there's something, like like you said, we're governed, we have laws, there's certain things in place. Right. But there is a difference. I think in those conversations, at the same time, they're still really tied together, because I think if you don't have that mental freedom, all the other ones come down a little harder, if that makes more sense.
And why I like that one, because I used it as when I moved out of the house at 18. I left the house like the prodigal son. I wanted my inheritance. I want to get out of here. I want my peace. I don't have no privacy. But guess what? It cost me to have that independence. I had to pay my own rent now. I had to buy my own food. So that independence is not freedom. A lot of it is the activity of life, but do we focus on the experience of life? And I believe that's what Brett and I are pointing to, and you as well. It's the experience of life. Are you independent or free in that space? Right. And most of us are not.
I mean, I'm retired from the Air Force, and I went into the Air Force actually to give something back to the country. That was my driving force. I had lots of other opportunities, and when I was in college, the professors were trying to talk me out of that. They're like, "Why go to the military? You could go work on Wall Street." And I'll tell you, I'm glad I did not go to Wall Street. But one of the things that I really talk about in terms of freedom is for us to question the BS of our BS. Question the bullshit of our belief systems. Because those belief systems, most often we defend them to the end, but we never went back to figure out where they came from in the beginning. So what we need to do, and this goes into politics, it goes into all different kinds of things, we have to go back to the beginning and ask, is this truly our belief, or were we given this by our parents, by our teachers, by our social groups? How did we establish these beliefs that we now defend tooth and nail, and yet we've never questioned, are they really mine? So if they're not really mine, are we truly independent?
I'm so glad you went there, because
I was waiting. He was happy. I could see it.
That is where my context of this conversation starts. If we just look at democracy, where did it come from? Our country is ran by dead men ideas. It's a Greek philosophy. The whole Greek philosophy was taken over by the Roman Empire. We know that story, and then they colonized it with the same ideologies, philosophies, and theologies. Those ideas are old, but we're still being governed by some guys who came up with an idea about democracy when we've outgrown that. I'm not saying I know what's better than that, but when you look at the heart of democracy, it is a selfish conversation, because it says that the gods told the Greeks who leadership was. And if we tell the truth in that conversation, they describe a person that looks like Donald Trump. Fair skin, thin lips, straight hair. And everybody else was a serving class. So when you look at the heart of even our political conversation and where it stems from, it's an old ideology, philosophy that I believe we've outgrown. And so when you look at it from the heart of that, and then the gods told them that, then who questions the gods? They told us that, what this looks like for leadership. And so that's been perpetuated through our whole country.
Well, we're trying to sit back and say what we think they meant by.
Right.
Nobody's here to defend themselves.
No,
to say this is what we actually meant. We're all sitting here going, no, this is what we meant, and this is what. But we don't know that for sure.
No. Even when you talk about the Constitution and all that, that's why what we teach in our curriculum is the emotional inclusion and exclusion is emotional for us, and we discount the human experience of the emotional. It reads that. But if I don't feel like I'm included in that by the language of it, then I'm fractured. My integrity is hurt, and now I'm going to defend it because I want to be included. But a lot of that stuff just wasn't written that included everybody as we think it is today, if we tell the truth to that. So the emotional state of us as human beings, for me, is we have to be okay with ourselves first, so that then we can look at these systems and see, okay, I don't like that, and I'm done tolerating it. I'm gonna go run for office if I'm really bothered by it. But if I'm just tolerating it, then I'm gonna say my piece, and then I'm gonna turn my channel and turn the TV back to life. Right? So that's my opinion about it. Or do I really believe that I'm gonna make a change and I'm gonna get into this conversation for a new conversation for it? What do you think, Brad?
Well, I think that conversation is the part that we need to start with. There's an internal conversation that we have to have, and recognize that our internal conversation influences our external communications.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't truly understand our internal communication or our internal conversations, and we're not congruent, and you have to remember your subconscious remembers what your conscious may not. And if the two are in conflict, you are in stress. And that stress comes through in the words you choose, in how you filter the world around you. And if you are not congruent, there's more likelihood that there's going to be, or you will seek out conflict outside, because again, your primary focus of the mind is to try to be congruent, even though there's conflict there. So it is going to potentially choose the red side, the blue side, this side, that side, because that's in the internal conflict that I already have. Mm-hmm. So now I'm looking for ways to reinforce what I'm saying to make me right, as you mentioned, because that is what our mind is naturally trying to do. It is something that dates back beyond the frontal cortex. It goes back to, your more lizard brain or reptilian brain, mm-hmm. because that kept you safe too.
Right.
And that's the part of the brain that we don't really control. Mm-hmm. And yet it influences how we live.
Yeah, that's we teach from the limbic system. And so that part right there is woo. And if you're not, again, if you're not aware of that, then how would you even know to think from that or take a look at that when you think that voice in your head is just who you are as a person? But it's not, just you're the one observing that voice chatter all that stuff.
And that's where sometimes they say, be the observer and look at, step away from your body, look into the situation. But actually, as the observer, you somewhat influence the situation. So you need to be the observer of the observer in order to get a more holistic, unbiased view of what's going on. And that's a role that we do not teach in school.
Right.
Most people do not understand, because it's not something that's ever been brought out. Right. And yet it is what is impacting, because we don't disassociate to that level. We are so into the picture that we do not see the forest through the trees.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So it's interesting. Before we came on today, I went to look up what are the core values of three of the main political parties: Republican, Democrat, Independent. Right. I went to go look up what are the core principles here. What are the things they say that they believe in and represent? And there's a couple things I found interesting in going through all of these things. One, if you didn't know what page you were looking at, you might not be able to quickly identify what party we're talking about.
Ooh.
So there was that. Ouch. And the other thing, which is really interesting for me, we talk a lot on this show specifically. This is one of my favorite things about this show, is we'll take a word and we'll go, okay, what does this word mean to me? What does it mean to you, Brett? What does it mean to you, Farron? What does the dictionary say? What did God tell me in the Bible? What did my mama tell me about this word? And we look at all of these influences on what the word means to us. Mm-hmm. Now, this is what I find really interesting. If you go to one of the sites and it says, we strive for justice. Mm. Well, people could easily go, well, I strive for justice, so I'm going to go ahead and go with this party. But their definition of justice and your definition of justice could be two very different things. And so we talked about conversation. You mentioned conversation, Brett. We're not having enough of that. because people are going, well, you voted Democrat, or you voted for Trump, or you voted for whoever. And so this is what you have to believe, without going, well, what does fairness mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
What does freedom mean to you? When you say limited government, what do you mean by that?
Exactly.
When you say equality, what do you mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we're not having these conversations. And I think there's a lot of us, my grandfather, I tell this story all of the time. It was adamant about, absolutely, when you are of it, you need to go vote. Period. End of story. That is your duty. You go vote. But we're not talking about what happens in that booth, because that is between you and God.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. What happens in that booth. And so he never, his entire life, I never knew what party he was. I never knew. I knew what his values were as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what values he was categorized as, because I never knew what party he was. You know, until even to this day, he's passed away for years now, and I have no idea. And so, I mean, I could assume, but isn't that what we're trying not to do? Yeah. You know? And so, how do you guys feel about some of those things? One, the how you know, we kind of come from this generation that told us not to talk about it. How do we start talking about it, and maybe start to get more comfortable with these conversations about, and maybe not shut down as soon as somebody says they voted for someone that you would never?
Wow, you know, I think things, you know, have gotten worse over time. I think that my personal opinion, COVID drew out the worst in a lot of what goes on around us, based on beliefs and not necessarily understanding what's going on behind the scenes. Or, like they say, you got to believe in the science. Well, whose science was it? And when you can't question science, is it science? No, science should be questioned always.
Always. For the people in the back. Okay, I'm done.
So I think, you know, it's funny. My dad always tells me a story about his father, and his father used to say, you're a Republican and you're a Democrat. Either way, you're taking our money, and you're either filling your pockets or you're giving it to someone else. But you're taking it out of my pocket.
Exactly.
So does it really matter if you're Republican or Democrat? Either way, you're trying to dip your hands into my pockets.
Yeah.
For my, you know, what I'm trying to provide for my family. So I think that, you know, we really need to look at things. And as I know people that are hard left, hard right, however you want to look at it. And I say, you know, sometimes you need to separate the message from the messenger, and recognize that just because Trump said something or Biden said something doesn't make it right or wrong. Look at the content and what they're trying to accomplish, and then evaluate that. But I think today, what gets in the way of most of this is that you're taking in the personalities, you're taking in the party lines, you're not looking at what the impact would really be if it were supported and executed as planned. And we didn't fight each other along the way. In business, if I fought everybody that I didn't see eye to eye with, we would go broke. You have to recognize, again, there's a common mission, a common goal. The common goal for most people is I'd like to live a good life. I'd like to provide a better life to my kids. That's something that you can pretty much find throughout any party or any country. Let's focus on that, and take away the bias in the personalities, and start looking at the messages specifically, and mix messages. I mean, not mixed messages, but mix messages, because there's a little bit here that makes a lot of sense and a little bit here that makes a lot of sense. If we were to bring those together and say, let's really blend this as opposed to I got to have mine, you got to have yours, maybe we'd end up with something that's really good.
I mean, in my own self-healing, in my own journey, I had to go back at 40 years old to get a new ideology, philosophy, and theology, right? I had to challenge the first 40 years of my life because I realized that a lot of stuff that I made up or my perception was so corrupted that I made stuff mean stuff that wasn't the true meaning. It was my truth, but it wasn't the truth. And when I was able to be willing to tell the truth to myself about myself, not about anybody else, but about Farron's truth to himself, and then where did it come from? And guess what? I had the memories, the stories that shaped my view of my life that was not really what happened in the past. So I had to figure out a new relationship to time, a new relationship to relationships, a new relationship to death. So we have a relationship to politics that's influenced by someone or something that, if we tell the truth and look back in our childhood, is probably a relative or a loved one or someone that said something that we valued their opinion, and then we took that and absorbed that, and then we lived from that view, whether it was grandpa or grandma or Uncle Fred or whoever. If we really tell the truth, and that's why we know that these kind of conversations have to happen, because I'm secure with who I am today, so I can listen to you and find out, well, how did you get to, who taught you that? Like, where did you learn that from? Because I know where I'm secure, where I got mine from, because I've done my work. So I've challenged my thoughts and my concerns and my worries, and I'm like, okay, I'm cool. So then I can ask more questions and give my opinion first, right? And as you said, Brett, I believe a lot of it is so much opinion that you have people that talk about the Bible doesn't have this, but you believe science. Well, were you there? None of us was even born. None of us were even born when none of this happened. We were born into this conversation. None of us wrote. I didn't write things about life. So we're born into this conversation. So understand that I'm born into this conversation, then at some point, as my mom says, at one point does a person realize that they've got to look at life for their own and look at life for who they're going to be today, not from how they felt they were treated or the influences around or the forces around them. And some people never discover that. Some people die stuck in those views. But some of us, I started at 40. But imagine we could teach this to our 8-year-olds that, hey, I don't want to teach you what to think, but we could teach you how to think. And by using these principles, you get to figure out what direction you want to go for your life.
See, what you're talking about too ties into some of what Brett said, and I was going to touch on this when he said it, which was about, we need to take this piece and put it together, or be able to look a little deeper. Some of those things are not things that we were taught how to do as children, to look into a situation or into, critical thinking. Yes, Ollie. We weren't taught how to do that. And that's one of the things I'm always this person that's looking at the other facet, the other layer, the flip side of things, a little bit of devil's advocate every now, I'm like, but have you thought about this? And that brings such a kind of a fun atmosphere too, because I've shared before, I homeschool my kids. And so it brings a fun atmosphere to us in homeschooling, because I'm like, they're going to tell you this and you're going to look at this, but I want you to look further. I want you to take your opinion of it. I want to take what you've heard. I want you to research it and then put it all together and form something from that. Like, look at all the pieces and not just the direction that people are pointing at and telling you to look at.
But that it goes back to Brett, and I would love your view on this one. But we're talking about the activity of it. What kind of self-love, self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, self-value, self-affirmation does one have to be able to stand firm on their views and also give up your position without losing yourself in that conversation? And so a lot of us, like myself, example, in the military, I had all of it: duty, honor, courage, all that. But in my personal life, I lack confidence. A lot, right? So if I'm in camouflage, I'm this person. But when the rank and the uniform was gone, I'm lost. Like, I don't even know who I am now. So I had to begin to tell the truth, cognitive behavior. How much confidence do I have in myself first before I try to get all your confidence, you to give me your confidence? How much do I have first? And then I could tell the truth. You know what? I don't have 100% confidence in myself. So then what percentage do I have? Okay, I have 80% confidence. So at least when I start to look at my life and start to figure out who I want to be and what I want to stand for, I can stand at least 80% confident in that conversation. And then the 20% is my shield. So you better not speak to that, because that's my lack of confidence, that 20%. So if you say something to my lack of confidence, I'm going to defend myself. But then I learned, oh no, that 20% is not going to be in front of me. That's for me to still go look at, so that I could decrease that number from 20 to 15 to 10 to 5 and increase my confidence to 90 to 10%. And I believe if we have those kind of conversations before you take on life in the system, how much confidence do you have? What's your self-esteem? Because if I come up against Brett and I have a lack of self-esteem, but I could talk good, he might convert me to his party because of my lack of confidence in myself or my lack of self-esteem. So now I'm bullied into the party because of what he said to me, and I can't defend myself, or I don't even know what to say. So I'm just I'm gonna join the gang.
Yeah.
I'm gonna join the gang.
Yeah, and oftentimes the people that talk the loudest are the ones that may not have the confidence in that particular thing that they're talking about. But yet, because they're the loudest, and because there's a lot of people like myself, I mean, I can be loud, I can be forceful, there's no doubt about it. But in general, I tend to sit back and listen, and gather information, and then formulate, like Jessica was saying, formulate an idea and then come forth with that idea. And it may come forth pretty forcefully at times, but it's understanding ourselves, and taking responsibility for ourselves are two of the hardest things that we ever have to do. It's a lot easier to point a finger than it is to point a finger in. And that's where we have to have the most confidence. And it's not one that people necessarily will ever know about you. Yeah. But you do need to point that finger inward first and say, what is it about me that makes me think this way or this strongly about this thing? And is that really me, like we talked about before? And recognize that we do, if you go to like the 6 human needs of, you need certainty in life, but you need variety in life too. You need to be significant. You need love and connection. You need to grow, and you need to contribute. Where we get those things and how we get those things is our unique prioritization and how we seek out satisfaction to meet those needs. And sometimes it's productive, and sometimes it's destructive, both internally and externally. And those are the things that we really need to consider. And the best way to try to find those things, and I talk about this in leadership, is you need a confidant and an advocate, somebody that you feel confident in talking to, that's not going to either try to make you feel good or try to make you feel bad, but somebody who's really a sounding board and can help to elicit that internal conversation that we really should be having, but we don't, because we don't have that sounding board internally. That's when that external confidant, that external coach, that external factor comes into play. To be perfectly honest, if you look at, you have to be very careful about coaches and psychologists and everything, because oftentimes they're coming at you with a particular bias.
That's what I'm saying. The philosophy and all of that stuff is mixed in there. And Brett, I truly appreciate you, because at the end of the day, how does one, if we talk about the sense of belonging, right, and the need for human beings to belong, right, mm-hmm. and it's already hard for me to honor my word to myself first, and then keep my word to you, right? I don't know, man. This is.
I know we only have about. Yeah. We only have about less than 7 minutes left with Brett. One of the things I wanted to ask you before you go, Brett, is what are your biggest concerns with the state of politics today, and do you have like a magic pill for us to take? Any what's one thing that you think people can do over the Thanksgiving break here? A lot of people around the US celebrating Thanksgiving. What do you think something that they could do to help the current state of things?
Well, two things. One, I actually did tell my next appointment that I may not be there or may be late.
Yay.
So if you're and with regard to, I don't think, I think the one thing, if there is one thing that we can do, is to really sit down and question the BS of our BS. Just, you don't have to tell anybody about it. You may need a teddy bear, because you're going to maybe put yourself in some conflict, and you might get scared when you start to go back and question your beliefs.
Right.
And just take one thing. Take, if we're going to politics, take Donald Trump. I mean, he's there all the time. And I can tell you 100% that as a leader, I don't particularly care for him. I think that his approach is not, I think it sucks. His message, though.
Tell us about it, Brett.
His message may not, if you can get past the personalities behind it.
Exactly.
Right.
So take anything that's out there, anything that you're feel strongly about, and then question it. And you could take it back to really scary stuff, like Farron, you had mentioned, religion. Is it my religion that I really believe in? Or is it somebody else's religion that I've grown up with and think it's mine? And then, like you said, how of those religions, regardless of what they are, most of the stuff that was written about them were written decades, centuries after whomever was, that leader. And did man create religion to control man? That's where, those are the touchy things, the things that are at our core, but the things that we do need to think about. And I think that that's going to give us the strength to accept things that are happening around us and to work with them as opposed to fight them.
The point that you made even now and before, for myself, we don't like to do generalized conversations here. We talk from our own personal life experience, right? And so everything that you point to and everyone is saying, I go back to Farron, and it's for me to open up to somebody, right? We know that there's judgment. We know that people judge one another again. But for me, what's worse than judgment is slander. Like if I come to you and tell you my deepest secrets, and then you use that against me later, or and that's that disconnection from human beings, because we have these fears. But before that, I honestly could tell you at 55 years old, I lived 53 years avoiding shame, disappointment, and embarrassment. So I'm talking from 2 years old. I could honestly tell myself and look at my life experiences and how I grew up, that at the core of how I viewed myself and what I was living from and avoiding, and all the boundaries were stemming from living avoiding shame, disappointment, and embarrassment. So how can I come to you as a person when I'm silently emotionally fractured because I'm afraid, and then I don't have the courage or the confidence, so then I'm influenced by you because I don't have a voice. I don't think I have a voice. See, what I realized that I did have everything I needed in my mom's and dad's home. Maybe not how I, as a perception of a child, because I don't know what it was to be an adult. I was 2. I was 5. I'm 55 trying to figure out what it is to be an adult today. But we don't have those kind of spaces of talks to be like, hey, you know what? You're not by yourself. We all grew up in some environment where we didn't really have a voice as children in our era. So yeah, there's a lot of suffering and silence that we've done, and we made it mean something about me. I'm not good enough. I don't belong. I'm on my own. And those emotional fractures leave us open to, again, joining the military, sports, gangs, predators, political parties. Come and hang out with us. Or you don't like black people? We don't either. Okay, let's go. Yeah. You don't like white people? Okay, let's go. You don't like Mexicans? Let's go. But wait, what part don't you like though? Because I might like them, but not the way that you don't like them, or you like. But we don't. If we don't have that space to find out, or like you said, the knowledge to even know to look first, then we get stuck.
Yeah, I think that we need to get back to mano y mano, person to person, hand to hand. When you get down to that level, you find out just how common we really are. The problem is that majority of our thoughts, the majority of what is happening around us, politics is a perfect example, is groupthink. When you get into groupthink, you have all the strength of, I got all the Republicans behind me. I got all the Democrats behind me.
Right.
I am this. Go talk to a Republican and go talk to a Democrat and just as a person to person. Now, the problem is that group is always in the back of our head. And you have to question that part of it. Mm-hmm. And that's where things get really challenging. There was during 9/11, Tony Robbins was having his Date with Destiny program. And there's like 100 representatives from 140 different countries in a room. Some of them celebrating and some of them crying. Mm-hmm. And Tony was put on the spot, and I spend a lot of time in the Tony Robbins community and following. And he had to figure out, do I cancel this Date with Destiny, which is a phenomenal program, or do I take this and bring out learnings? Mm-hmm. And he brought a person on stage that was celebrating the destruction of the Twin Towers, and somebody who was completely distraught. Or he brought up somebody that was a Muslim and somebody that was an Israeli, a Jew, and brought them on stage and started to get them to talk person to person. Mm-hmm. They came up ready to fight. They walked away and created a nonprofit organization to help people understand that we are together.
Man, I'm here to tell you.
That is the presence that we need to have, each and every one of us, to feel confident enough to go talk to a person, not talk to the whole damn group. And don't let that whole damn group in our head talk for us.
That's the label. That's the label we're talking about. You got to peel that label off.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just like a bandage, sometimes it hurts like hell when you tear that bandage off.
Yeah.
But when you see that it's all healed up underneath, it was worth it.
It was worth the few seconds of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nanoseconds sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, that's what needs to happen. I witnessed last election, which I always think it's so quote unquote fun to have the elections right before Thanksgiving when we're supposed to be breaking bread together. I witnessed last election friends of mine whose kids refused to come over their house for Thanksgiving because they knew who they voted for and they didn't agree. And the way that it broke my friends, because I mean, look, as a parent, you want so bad. You just want the best for your kids. You love them in the best way you know how. And so then to have however many years of that just being literally stomped on because they're mad about who you voted for. And I think for me, a lot of the conversation around politics has to do, and this is again something that we talk about a lot, with two things here that we talk about a lot in my house, is that one, each of us individually prioritizes things very differently. We prioritize things for our families very differently, for us as individuals. We all have different things that we care about. We have different needs. We have different desires. We have, and so then we prioritize differently. And the other part of it is that I really feel like we could do a lot to work on our delivery of things. I 100% am on board with you, Brett, that certain people just could you just say it nicely for the love of God? Could you imagine how that would come across if you just put a little syrup on it and just put, please. And so if we're conscious of how we're communicating, are we aware of how we're coming across? Are we listening as much as we talk? And are we willing to not let the fact that people are doing the best they can for the people that they care about stand in the way of us coming together? We all have different priorities, and because we vote based on those priorities, you can't do anything about that. Look at my daughter coming up. I just have to. When does it stop being about assumptions on people because of their beliefs? And when does it start being about welcoming everybody? Thank you to my daughter in the audience today.
You said something, Jessica, that I don't know if I've said publicly here, but I just uprooted 41 years of not being vulnerable, like in the last 2 weeks. And it came because I got present to that. I've been hurt so much that I've never been able to express my hurt to anyone. And so when an episode happened to me and I went off on this person because of how they talked to me, I realized that even when I tried to go clean it up, that I defended my intentions and not how I landed on them, because I was hurt. So I have a right to act the fool because you acted a fool, and so, but I never brought my act the fool up to you when it happened. But I allow people to tell me right away, "Oh, Farron, you hurt my feelings, or you did this to me." And so, as a man, I took it because I was taught that you got to be strong. You can't show your feelings, you can't show emotions, right? But what I saw was, even in my delivery of trying to heal that conversation with the person, I still came from the position of my intention versus how they felt hurt from my intention. And I really didn't do anything to hurt them on purpose. It was my behavior, it was my attitude, it was my character that hurt them, not Farron, because I didn't mean it for it to come out like that. When I got present to that, that helped me do more layer work and peel layers off. And I'm like, well, no wonder, because in relationships, I made a decision that I'm not going to be vulnerable and have to defend myself in relationships. But defending myself could be in a good way or a bad way. But I know that I can defend myself. And when I saw that glimpse of that, it was like, man, how I could say no in a nice way or a kind way by my tone or by my facial expression, right? Or my body language or my character or my behavior. And it could still land for someone because they may love me for my behavior and my character and my personality, but not my body language. So I can offend people with my body language. I can offend people with my character. I can offend people with my behavior, with my personality. And so sometimes in these conversations, we show up in the political conversation protecting all of those areas, and it's landing on people.
Right.
That we may not really intend for it to land that way, but it's how I deliver that message.
Right.
And I can be responsible for how I land on people today. So it allowed me to be vulnerable again. And then when I went to the Bible, to James 5:16, it says, confess your faults to one another. So in my spiritual context, I got my strength in the biblical context, but in my heart, being open like that was a weakness. So which one do I want? Do I want the weakness or do I want my strength back? So I got my power back. But it takes that level of confidence. Before you do that work, who are you being? For we're human beings, not human doings. So we focus on the doing, but we discount the experience because, man, if I open up to Brett and I really tell him how I feel about this political party, he might not be my friend no more. He might not want to talk to me no more. So I'd rather have that bit of acceptance, even though it's pretend, than to not have Brett in my life at all. But then we don't even really get along.
Then it's not you that they want to be friends with. It's not you. It's a person that doesn't exist.
And now I gotta wear that all the time, and that's emotionally exhausting.
We are down to the wire here tonight. I want to get final thoughts from everybody this evening. We're going to let our guests go first. Brett, final thoughts that you want to leave with people this evening.
I'm going to go with a term that I use oftentimes when I'm describing challenges at work and in leadership, and that's violent agreement. Violent agreement is when we think in different ways. I'm an analytical person. My girlfriend is a people person. When she's a feeling person, I'm a logical person. We can be talking about the same thing with the same intent, but because we're coming from it from such a different angle, we can get into an argument. It's based on, like we talked about earlier, the delivery. It had nothing to do with the message. The message is common. The message is what we're both trying to get to, but we can get into violent agreement over the way that we are coming to that, the way that we are justifying it, the way that we are our energy is coming from. And and it's been amazing having a girlfriend that has this completely different feeling of the world when I was so logical about the world. And it's opened up my eyes to realize, guess what? I feel the world too. But that was not my strength. My strength was always my logic. I didn't trust my gut. I overcame it with my brain. Guess what? When you combine your brain and your gut, and to be perfectly honest, your gut is usually more accurate than your brain, then you start to realize that even inside we have violent agreement. And that's what we have to address and to be aware of, because if we're aware of it and we think about even that, it will influence us. It's becoming aware of that is the first step in coming to congruence.
Mm. Thank you for that, Brett.
Yeah,
that was amazing. Farron.
It's wild. You triggered in my brain a conversation that I learned about called the reality agreement. And sometimes the reality agreement has to be tested up against something that's real first, right? Because we believe in Santa Claus, we know that he ain't real, but there's this there's this agreement in the world, you know. So for me, I say this: if you heard anything that questioned any of the conversation that people are listening, find something that you can challenge your life up against outside of how you think. It was personal development for me. It was cognitive behavior. It was biblical principles. It was grief counseling. It was our listening skills. Find something that you can challenge your mind up against to see if it's real. And then that will allow you to figure out who you are as a person for yourself first. So what do we use to test our reality up against? And it's got to be something outside of your thought process, because your mind is always going to be right because it's designed to survive life. So when you understand that your brain is memory, action, and perception patterns, that's going to always make you right. But up against each other, when I'm right and you're wrong, there's no love present. I believe that's what we want to experience. We want to experience love in the presence of us, but up against each other, that righteousness could be a disconnection, and that label could be a disconnection. So then there's no experience of love.
I want for everybody this is my final thought. This is what I'm leaving it with. I want for everybody on Thursday to pick your favorite dish and fill up on that, and make less room for your need to be right at the Thanksgiving table. I love what Brett talked about picking one thing and examining it, looking at it different, making the conscious choice to look at that one thing, that one person, that one political belief. Try real hard to look at it from the other side, or look at it just differently from what you talk to one person and ask questions, have a conversation. Don't be afraid. And going on to what Farron said as well, if somebody is enjoying your presence simply because they think that you believe everything that they believe, they're not loving you for you. They're not wanting you in their life for you. They're wanting someone in their life that doesn't really exist. So we have to release that fear that people are gonna leave us, not want us to belong, and all of those things because we believe differently, because that's just reality. It's reality. And I can speak to this very strongly that recently I've done a lot of work on releasing things, doing some of this stuff that I'm talking about, and the way that God, the universe, the way that things start to align when you do that, it makes room for the people that love you no matter what. It makes room for that. And so make room for that at your Thanksgiving table. Eat the food, hug your family, and just start to release those other things, those fears, those needs to be right, and the need to belong to something that is a lie. You know, next week on the show, or next episode, is our season 3 finale. And we're going out with a bang. We're going out with a bang because we're going to be back here on Tuesday, December 16th at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. And we are talking about religion, boys and girls.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I don't know if I'm going to be loving it, but but that's what we're talking about on the next episode. And I'm excited to talk about this. And it's not just religion. We're going to talk about faith. We're going to talk about, beliefs and all of those things. And so I'm looking forward to that conversation to finish off season 3. And then just a quick heads up for everybody. When we come back for season 4 in February, we are going to be on a new day and time. There it is. We're going to be second and fourth Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. What's that Pacific? For 11 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesdays. We're going to be on a new day and time. And we're hoping some more folks will be able to join us and share our comments. I want to shout out to Ali tonight, who's been, just with the fire. Ali, I just appreciate you so very much. And I shared this the other day. One of the biggest things that I'm thankful for this holiday season is the way that the people that I'm closest to in my life, in my business, in my personal life show up. And Ali is for sure one of those people. And thank you so much, Ali, for being a part of the conversation tonight. There's been a lot of people here who have been very quiet this evening. And I hope that you take that. And I'm hoping you're saving the conversation for your loved ones this Thanksgiving. That's what
I want to ask Brett before we end this. I'm looking at religion, again from a way that it's a philosophy, a theology, right? So I had to get a new ideology, philosophy, and theology, right? Religion is weaponized, right? To me, it appears to be weaponized. But in the military, we have a chaplain who can speak to all religions, right? We got this one guy who says that I'm the guy, no matter what your belief is, that you can come to me and we could talk through it and work through it. With the way that religion is being weaponized, what do you see with that, if anything?
Well, it's interesting. When I was in college, I wrote a paper about Shintoism, which was an animistic religion of Japan. And they said the religion is a warring religion, and that's bullshit. The religion had nothing to do with the emperor becoming, the leader of a war machine. Mm-hmm. There was a party behind the installation of an individual and to create and put him in a military uniform. And because the religion was already believed by the people, all of a sudden that translated into trust behind that leader. A manipulation of religion. And if you really think about it in general, religion has probably been the greatest cause of war in the history of mankind.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes,
so how can religions that talk about love and peace and acceptance and there's a lot of variations in there, I know I hear them. Mm-hmm. But guess what? I hear people say that the Islam says that they're gonna kill all the Christians. Well, if that was the case, then that would be happening. Come on, guys. Mm-hmm. There's almost, if not more, Muslims in the world than there are Christians, and we're living side by side most of the time because it's individuals that are living there. But it is this manipulation of religion that creates the division, and that's what we have to break down. So that's I
asked that because this is you're gonna have to turn the computer off after I say this. But this is the reason. This is the reason why when I look at Hitler, and his who took that little boy and manipulated him to say that God told you that you're the chosen one to restore the Roman Empire mindset, and his philosophy and theology and ideology developed. Did he think that was wrong when his whole belief system, as you said, the BS system was I'm doing right? But who was behind that person that took that little boy and created this person, right? To believe that, yeah, you're the chosen one, and now you need to go kill these people. Come on, I mean, that's
again, every single conversation we have, and not to spoil what the last episode's going to be, but I promise you, I'm going to be on that show saying, have you talked to the individuals?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we talking about like, who are you talking to? What are you believing? Because we need to come together. And so we're gonna talk about it next episode. And I just want to, Brett, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. It was so much fun to have you back on the network, and I look forward to anytime you want to come on and share the screen with us. I appreciate you.
For sure.
I loved it. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Farron.
Yes.
We're gonna see everybody in a few weeks. We're not gonna. Usually we're here the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, but it's not going to be the 9th because that is the World Building Expo, the final one for the year. So come check out our booth. We'll have the information for you. You guys can listen to me yap about it in the morning on Project Joy. So there's that. But we'll be back the 16th of December, and we wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving. If you're celebrating, if you're not, I wish you a wonderful day. Eat some food or something. I'm Jessica Dugas. This is Farron Dozier and our special guest, Brett Gordon, the 5D leader. And we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
It was almost 7D.
Yeah, almost. Bye.